Where was I? Oh, right. Okay. You know what I keep dreaming of? She was at a party and he could hear the campfire popping in the background. Everyone was asleep and she had called him out of the blue. "What is that, love?" He heard her sigh. She loved when he called her things like that. "I dream of us together, and I can't wait for us to sleep next to one another. Just sleep. And when we do, you know how you know how I want it to be?" "How is that?" he asked with a smile on his face he couldn't wipe off, even if he wanted to. "The first time I want you to be behind me, your left arm underneath my head, my left hand stretched out holding yours. Your other hand is wrapped around me, cupping a breast. And then I put my hand on yours, and we hold one another till we fall asleep. And we sleep a peaceful sleep together. Something I haven't done in a long time." He let out a deep sigh of his own. "That sounds wonderful. I can't remember the last time I had a peaceful sleep. The pain makes me toss and turn all night." She let out a small laugh. "I don't know how long we will stay in that position. I toss and turn all night as well." "Do you get hot in the night?" "Oh God, it's like menopause on the mattress," he said, laughing. "I have to have a big pile of blankets on the bed because I keep kicking them off of me and then scramble to find them in my sleep when I get cold. It is a dance I do all night." He paused for a second, then laughing, he said, "So when one of us has to toss or turn, the other one can just go with it. We move, then hold each other until the other one has to move, then we do it again. It will be like a tossy-turny snuggle dance that we can master." She let out a deep laugh that made his heart warm and smile. "Masters of the tossy-turny snuggle dance." She was laughing just as hard as he was. "Oh my God, yes, I want that." He walked over, pulled the blanket back up to her shoulders, kissing each one as he did. Then kissing her on the head and cheeks, he whispered, "My ocean, my river," she mumbled back and smiled, not really awake, but answering from her dreams. He grabbed his cup from the window seat and went to the kitchen for a refill. He glanced over at the kitchen counter, and there was his old canvas book bag crammed full of papers, notes, typed papers, and journals. It was his first bag he had at college. Over the years, it grew into his "shit I need to finish but hurts too much to do it, so I'm just gonna hide it in here" bag. That was where Songs from the Hourglass had rested for the last year. He had tucked it away inside an old cedar chest along with his great-grandmother's incredibly heavy and comfortable hand-knitted quilt. She must have pulled the bag out when she grabbed Songs from the Hourglass but forgot to bring it up. He could picture her trying to carry the glasses, bottle of wine, the book, and bag over her shoulder. Opting for the glasses and the wine, she probably put the bag on the counter, thinking she would come back and get it. He debated whether he should put the bag back in the closet where it was or take it upstairs. Knowing she would just go get the book bag again and ask him what was it, he decided to cut out the middleman and take the bag to the studio. He was asleep on the floor when he felt a gentle hand caressing his cheek, and he opened his eyes to see her sitting next to him, smiling. "Hey," she whispered as she kissed his lips. "Hey back," he replied and wrapped his arms around her. "You have been busy," she said, falling onto his chest and looking at the piles of papers. "Sorry, I meant to come back to bed. Guess I didn't make it." "It's starting to rain." She grabbed the stack of papers closest to her. "Maybe a good day to start a fire and sit around and read, write, and snuggle, huh?" He kissed her on the head, nose, lips, lips, then put his head on hers. We can do that. Boy stories? She asked, sitting up and grabbing the first stack of papers she could reach. She looked over at the backpack. Are these from that bag I grabbed out of the closet? Oh, yeah, that, he said with an exasperating sigh. That would be my blessing and my curse. She waited for him to keep going, but he didn't say anything, just traced his fingers through her hair and stared out the window at the rain. And? She asked gently. I wrote the first boy story my freshman year in college. It basically kick-started my writing career, and for the next 20 years I had tried to write and finish the boy stories to no avail. They just hurt too much. So I put them away and said I wasn't going to finish it. But somewhere in the back of my mind it is still there wanting to be finished. My own personal albatross. She sat up and smiled. Well, you are just full of surprises, aren't you? Can I read it? Well, you pulled it out of the closet, he said with a nervous laugh. Things happen how they are supposed to happen. She noticed he paused for a second, but then he said, You have the freedom of the wind, my love. What if you fix breakfast, start the fire, and I start reading? She asked. I can do that. He got up and started to head downstairs. I don't like being in the room when you read my work for the first time anyway. I get too nervous. Is it in any order? What should I start with first? She asked as she started to... She asked as she started to look at the piles of papers in front of her. He handed her one titled Keeper of the Magic. Well, you might as well start with the one that launched the career. I honestly don't have an order for them yet. Well, I have a beginning, but Just go there. That is a good place to start. He kissed her again and headed down to the kitchen. She began to read. To keep the heart warm. Mother and I moved to a small town outside of Baton Rouge. It was only big enough to sustain one general store. You could pick up a battery for your truck or a nice chunk of white chocolate and a barber shop. Mom was never home. Home was a trailer hooked to the water behind a friend's house that we rented out by the month. She usually left me $1 and held the faith that I would fend for myself. Every morning I would wake up, see that lonely dollar on the shaky, uneven kitchen table, and wonder how in the hell she expected me to eat on that. I spent the beginning of the summer fishing in little creeks and streams that make up Louisiana. The bayou was another world to me. One step into the woods and you were sucked into the deep mysteries of the murky black waters. You could sit on the banks and stare down into the water and watch it ripple with things unknown, but that could fuel the imagination forever. There are more legends to these waters than people, and when you're a child, this mystery ignites your curiosity. I found an old Zebco fishing reel in the guy's garage where our trailer sat. I dug up some worms in the new planted garden and ventured out into the woods. I loved sitting underneath the willows. I didn't really care if I caught anything or not. It was just being there that made it so special. High noon, when the fish stopped biting, I would put my pole down and walk through the woods, jumping over dead trees, climbing up live ones. I thrived in this freedom, sucked in its very essence. But it all vanished as I returned. Maybe I should try this rodeo. As I returned to that empty, dirty trailer waiting for me like the reality out of a good daydream. As the summer grew into one giant inferno, I ventured less and less into the woods. The heat was unbearable. Plus the mosquitoes and snakes took over. It wasn't fun, slapping my flesh and watching every step. Water moccasins are very moody snakes. One false move and you could find yourself in a heap of trouble. I spent more and more time at the general store. Buck, the owner, never came right out and said, I feel for you. He didn't have to. After seeing that look enough times, I knew what it meant. Gee, I feel sorry for you. I wish there was something I could do, but you know, something tells me not to. That's the way it was. Kids would play with me for a while, and then their parents would tell them not to hang around me. White trash and all. That boy's trouble. But Buck, he was different. I would sweep or run errands. In return, he would give me a Mountain Dew or a sandwich. He would tell me dirty jokes, most of them I didn't get, but would laugh at anyway because they made Buck laugh, and me a part of his world. There was an old man who sat on the porch of the store. He didn't talk to me, so I didn't talk to him. Therefore, I didn't pay attention to him. I didn't look at people for fear they would call me names. White trash piece of shit, dirty Yankee boy, Yankee white ass. All of these names rang in my ears even when there was nobody there. It got so bad I would even flinch when somebody just yelled a happy, "Hey!" I had just finished sweeping the store when Buck came around the counter and threw a Mountain Dew my way. He ruffled my hair and told me to sit out on the porch and take a break. I walked outside, sat down on the step, and sucked the Mountain Dew down with a happy gasp and a smack of my lips. I heard a voice behind me that sounded like it belonged to an old, scratchy 45 record. "Been washing you for some time now, Pino." The Cajun accent was so strong I could barely understand what he was saying. I turned around and sitting on an old beaten-up dang it, I can't. I turned around and sitting on an old beaten-up wicker rocking chair was the most intriguing man I had ever laid eyes upon. He was a short, stout, dark-skinned man. He had bone-white hair that twisted into tight curls, and you couldn't tell where one began and the other ended. He had plump arms that rested on his lap, and he wore dark, cut-off shorts that showed plump legs. A pale white smile glowed on his face. It was like he knew a joke no one else knew. But what caught my attention were his eyes. All I saw was white. The way he looked at me gave me an eerie feeling, like I was being judged. From where I sat on the porch, I was looking up at him, and somehow at that angle, I felt weak, alone. "Yeah, I talking to you. Don't stare all day, Pino," he said, laughing, those wide eyes staring at me. "My name's not Peanut," I said. "Don't be smart. Your name's what I call you, yeah. Your name is Peanut to me." "What happened to your eyes?" I asked. To see with a child's eyes again. Not afraid to ask anything. I tell you, come closer. "I need to get a better look at you, yeah," he said, waving his hand towards me. I walked over and sat on the edge of the porch, feet dangling in the dirt. "That's better." He paused and took a drink from the red-striped beer beside his chair. "God don't want me to see with my eyes. I'm born in the dark. He wished me to see with my heart, and that's what I do, yeah. Name's Frenchie." He held out his hand. I grabbed his sandpaper hand and squeezed like my grandfather had taught me to. There's power in that grip. "You may not be the pissant everyone say you are, yeah." He grew quiet, rocking back and forth in that chair, laughing to himself. I sat and stared at him. At the same time of just sitting, I felt uncomfortable and stood up to go back inside the store. "Sit down, Pino." I sat. "I will tell you a tale of rust. I will show you your keeper, then at night I will show you your maker. Then I will ask you, which one do you trust?" The chair squeaked out an eerie tune as Frenchie spoke, catching the words just right and emphasizing their eeriness all the more. He leaned forward and looked right at me. "I hear about you. People talk in this town," he was whispering. "They think you a good one gone bad, yeah. Bad seed. Maybe we change that, yeah. Come by tomorrow, we sit and talk for a while. Maybe talk the days when dreams were real." He leaned back and looked up at the sky, rocking in that chair, laughing.